good to see you all here today. Man, we're getting some nice weather finally. It's been real nice these last couple days. Hopefully it stays, but I looked at the weather and next weekend is going to hurt us again a little bit. But I actually got thrown off. It tricked us, it duped us on Tuesday with that really nice day. And Lauren and I decided to go to Essex and have a nice walk. It was so nice to finally get out and wander around a little bit. And we said, I said, I'll take the blame. I said, man, it's getting nice out. I said, why don't we do, because we've been trying to get up early, 6 o'clock, try to get at the day a little bit earlier and wake up and all that good stuff. And I said, why don't we get up at 6? We'll head to Essex like almost every morning. We'll have a nice walk. We'll get woken up, and then we'll have like plenty of time to get ready for work and all that stuff. I see heads shaking because you know how this happened. We woke up the next day at 7:30, got ready for work, and did not go walking because I checked the weather and it was like -5, and I was like, oh no, yeah. That's what I felt like. I said, no, you know what? We'll wait till August when it gets a little warmer. But it's just so nice to have some actual nice weather finally. It's good to see you all again. Sorry, I'm looking for my mic here. It's good to see you all again. I know I see you all pretty much every week, but it's been a while since I've been up here with one of these things hanging from my ears. I think it was December. Mid-December was the last time, because I looked at the video from before, and there's a Christmas tree behind me, so I'm going to assume. But yeah, it's been a little while. And last time I was up here, I gave you guys a little update on how we were doing with our whole moving and stuff like that, because at the time we had been living in an RV and in our backyard, and we had just transitioned into our house with a Christmas tree, heat and running water, and that was about it. But that's all you need, right? What more do you need? Nothing. But it's been a fun project going on. As we've went on, we've gotten a few more things here and there. We finally got kitchen cupboards, been able to get all of our dishes out, and the little things that make you realize, like, it makes you, all of a sudden when you don't have these things, you miss them. You know, a dishwasher. We don't have a dryer right now. That's the last one we're waiting for, but at the end of the day, I feel like that's the best one to not have. Everything else is just so nice to finally get these steps moving forward into making this house our home. But my dad was always saying, like, oh, you know, it's just, there's always going to be something. But I feel like, and it keeps things interesting, keeps giving you something to do. And but just once we get everything into a good spot, I'll be happy. And yeah, that's that. That's where we're at right now. It gives us something to do during lockdown, which has been. Speaking of lockdowns, I have had a little story regarding that. A little short interaction I had with a fella yesterday that I'd like to share with you. I had a good chuckle, and I hope you will too. So I had to run up to Windsor yesterday. Trust me, it's not the beginning of a stand-up comedy routine. This is the message. Just had to warn you. I had to run up to Windsor yesterday to get a couple new dress shirts because for some reason the ones that I had bought a year before COVID, they didn't fit me anymore. They shrunk. I don't know what else it could be. I don't know why you're laughing either. There's no. Anyway, so I had to head up to the mall because I was like, well, I'm going to be up here today. I got to look presentable for you folks. But there's a place in the mall that I go to. They got these nice shirts. This is actually one of them. Nice stretchy material, super comfortable. I'm not sponsored today to tell you this or anything. I like these shirts, so I go here first and all that stuff because it's a good shirt. So they're my go-to. So I head up there to find a couple shirts, and I find a couple patterns I like. This was one of them, another one, and I grabbed them. I grabbed them in medium because I've been doing that since I was in grade 9. It's just second nature at this point. So I looked and I said, no, grab the medium, not thinking that the reason I'm here is to get bigger shirts because they don't fit me anymore. I grabbed the mediums, Walk over to this guy. He's a fit gentleman. I assumed he worked there, and I was lucky because I can just see one time I'm going to walk up to a guy who's hanging clothes and stocking shelves, and it's just a weird hobby that he has, and he's going to look at me like I'm the crazy one. It's like going up to someone who has a red shirt on in Target. I mean, you shouldn't have wore the red shirt, but anyway, that's a story for a different day. I go up to the guy and I say, "Excuse me, can I try these on?" And he doesn't say no. I haven't had that yet. I'm just scared that someday they will. And he says, "Yeah, for sure. Let's head on back." He grabs the shirts out of my hands and he starts looking at the tags and he says, he stops in his tracks. He says, "These are mediums, eh?" I'm like, "Yeah." I grabbed them. I know what size. I wasn't that sarcastic. I like to tell the stories more sarcastically. It really makes for a more interesting storytelling. But I said, "Yeah, I know." And he looks at me, and he's a pretty fit guy. He's a little shorter than myself, but in my mind, I'm like, we're about the same size. In my mind, the mind's a funny thing, and I'm standing there, and he looks at me, not so dramatically, but he looks at me and says, "You're a little bigger than me. You're probably going to need a large." Oh, my heart. Like he didn't have to. He didn't have to do that. He woke up that day and says, "I'm going to break someone's soul." It didn't have to be me. I was just the last person he was seeing before he went on his break, and he figured, well, now's as good a time as any. I'm going to lay into this guy, and wow. I was not expecting it. I had the mask on so he couldn't see my jaw drop, and I was just wanting to say, like, "Dude, come on. Like, I don't know you. Come on." And then I started thinking, like, wow, how did I get here? Not the mall, like at that point in my life. How did I get to that point in my life? I have had that, though. I feel like we all have that when we're driving. All of a sudden, man, how did I get here? But again, another story for another day. But I said, how did I get here? Why am I buying these large shirts? And I'm thinking back and I say, well, it could be the fact that we've been in lockdown in quarantine and all that stuff for a year, and I've been pretty cooped up in the house, and I wasn't exercising every day like I said I was gonna. And I like food. I do like food. That was probably the one right there. And it doesn't help that I just got married, so we got a lot of, there's a lot of food now. Nothing against, I figured I would have to say that. My dad's here, and I figured he might get a little, say, "We fed you." Not saying you didn't feed me. I'm just saying now I just get a little bit more food because there's two of us. We're going to stop right there and move on. But I realized right there, I said, oh, that's why. I realized how I'd gotten there, and I said, that's why. So what do I do about it now? It wasn't the first time this happened, though. A couple months ago, we had gotten a scale, our first scale as a married couple, big purchase. It was an electronic scale. It is. I didn't break it. It still is an electronic scale. Connects to your phone, and when you stand on it, it tells you, your weight, ideally, your BMI, and a whole bunch of other stats that I don't care about. But it was the first time I had stepped on a scale in a year, and I was like, whoa, yikes. Same thing, same soul-crushing feeling. But what happened was I got comfortable. And instead of saying, I'm going to do something about it, I said, I will eventually, and I kind of put it off. I kept putting it off, and then I'm getting made fun of in a mall shirt store 3 months later. But I'm not here to cry about the pain of this man caused me. I'm not here to vent about this whole weight thing. I don't do that, but it does have a point. It does have a tie-in with what I wanted to talk to you guys about today, and that is heaven, because they match up so well. Weight and heaven. It'll make sense in a bit. Don't worry. Just stick with me. Stick with me. We're all familiar with the idea of heaven. I feel like a lot of us who have grown up in the church, whatever age we are, at some point we were in Sunday school and we were taught about the heaven was the place where God is, and we're not right now, but it's the place where God is, and it's somewhere in the sky, or it's It's a really awesome place, and ultimately it's a place that we're going to, eventually spend an eternity with our Heavenly Father there once our time on earth has ended, whenever that may be. But it's one of the many things that's a little difficult for our minds to grasp, okay? Like, to think about it, to think about heaven, to think about exactly what heaven is, and to try to comprehend that is very difficult. It's much like when I said we're going to spend an eternity there, it's like thinking about that. You ever thought about eternity late at night when you're trying to sleep? It's not a good idea, because you start thinking and you're like, we're made to understand things as time, and all of a sudden you're saying, well, time's not going to end, and it's just going to keep going on and on and on. And then all of a sudden it's 3 a.m. and you're like, I got to get up soon. Like, what the heck? I can't be thinking about this. It starts gnawing on the mind, but our minds are not meant to comprehend such things. They're a little out of our grasp, and that's okay. And heaven is sometimes one of those topics where it's a little out of grasp. It's not a thing that a place where you have a specific image for when you say, oh, that's it. I could Google Disney World right now, and I'm going to get pictures of the castle. I'm going to get pictures of the rides that I love so much. I hate rides. I can get pictures of the 6-foot Mickey Mouse. That's terrifying. But, you get my idea. There's places where you can search these things up and get an idea and see, even if you haven't been there, even if you haven't been to Florida, you haven't been to Disney World, you can still look it up and say, oh, that's what it's like. There it is. It's a little different when talking about heaven. We can't just Google heaven. We can't, like, there wasn't a guy that went up there and is like, yeah, I took a photo on my phone, check out my Facebook and leave it a like. It can be hard for us to grasp sometimes. But the Bible has times where it describes heaven in terms that we can grasp and understand, really. In Luke 23:43, Jesus is on the cross having a conversation with a guy that is being crucified beside him, and the guy was asking him all these questions and very worried, and Jesus says to him, "Truly I tell you, today you will be with me in paradise." Paradise. Wow, that's nice. That is a nice, when I think of paradise, everyone's got their own thought of paradise. Everyone's got their own version. My thought of paradise, definitely warm, no bugs, preferably. So already the place doesn't exist. But preferably warm. It doesn't have to be sandy beaches, but as long as there is just no worry, I feel like in every vacation I've been on, as nice as it is, and when you try to get away, there's always something that's, especially as I grow older, there's always something in the back of your mind that's still there from non-vacation thinking, when I get home I got to do this, when whatever. So it's very hard to get away from that and having no worries and having any of that. But that's what I think of paradise when I think of this. A place where there will not be any pains, no struggles. And this paradise Jesus is talking about, is just that kind of place. No pains, no struggles that we're so used to, that we know of this world. And we're promised a place in it. We got our reserved spot. We're promised a place. Jesus speaks of this in John 14. He says, "My Father's house has many rooms. If that were not so, then would I have told you that I'm going to prepare a place for you?" So he reassures us that he's going ahead of us. He's getting it ready for us. That's nice. That's really nice. That's really reassuring to hear those words. Not only is this going to be a paradise, really great place, the best of the best, but he's getting it ready for us. And that's just awesome. But it can be a mix of emotions sometimes. I feel like we've all had a moment of doubt. We've all had a moment of doubt of something in our lives at some point. I don't think you're going to call me a liar for that one. But when it comes to heaven, I have had times in my life where it's been a slight mix of emotions, where I say, on the one hand, you got, it's going to be this great place, really awesome, perfect. None of the stuff that we are so used to in this world, none of the bad stuff. But then on the other hand, I say, oh, but I don't know, what to expect. And I kind of like how things are. I kind of like my life here. I like my friends and I like my family, and most of my friends. I like my family. and maybe you like your job, maybe you like just how life is going, you're very happy with that, and you say, for all that to change and for all that to go away, because it talks about in the Bible is that heaven will be very different than it is here. Like relationships will not work the same way. Obviously, we're not going to have jobs that we got to go to 9 to 5, but it's going to be very different. And that can sometimes cause for a little bit of mixed emotions. When I was in high school, just going to high school for the first time was very stressful for me. I had a little bit of anxiety in that. And because not only did I not, I came from a small school of about 150 people. And then we were going to a high school where that's as many grade 9s as there were. And then one for every grade. So there was 4 times the amount of students. So I was just all of a sudden like, what do I expect in this small city of a high school that I'm going to be going to? I mean, now that I look at it, I guess it's not that big, but hindsight is 20/20. And I was just so nervous about these kinds of things. If it was going to be a new class, if it was going to be a course I was taking, even as I get into my adult years, if it was a new job or anything like that. Like when I first came in here, Pastor Tom, he was very intimidating. I'm kidding. No, but I've had jobs where I would sit down, like going through high school and right out of high school, where I would sit down and I was even as comfortable as I could be, as soon as I would sit down, it was very nerve-wracking, very nervous, because I didn't know what was to come. If I would get the job or I would go to that class, at the end of the year, you say, man, that was easy, like that was so comfortable once I got to know it, but it was just that right before. And heaven's going to be way better than any high school class I've taken, so why am I still kind of on the fence? Why am I still kind of like, there's a little bit of dread, just a little bit, that makes me kind of miss and say, oh, don't take me just yet. I like how it is here right now. I'm very comfortable. Comfortable. That's an important word. Let's keep that in mind. We're told what it will be like. Revelation 21:4 says this: He will wipe away every tear from our eyes, and death shall be no more. Neither shall there be mourning, nor crying, nor pain anymore, for the former things have passed away. That'll be nice. We also receive a description in Revelation 22, 1-5. The next chapter, it says, Then the angel showed me a river. This is John receiving a vision. The angel showed me the river of the water of life, as clear as crystal, flowing from the throne of God and of the Lamb, down the middle of the great street of the city. On each side of the river stood the tree of life, bearing 12 crops of fruit, yielding its fruit every month. And the leaves of the tree are for the healing of the nations. No longer will there be any curse. The throne of God and the Lamb will be in the city, and his servants will serve him. That's us. They will see his face, and his name will be on their foreheads. There will be no more night. There will not be any need for light of the lamp or light of the sun, for the Lord God will give them light, and they will reign forever and ever. That sounds pretty good. There will be none of this death, none of this mourning, none of the things that we are so used to at this point, that are just plaguing the news, all of these events that, 20 years ago, if you saw an event of this scale, that'd be all they'd be talking about on the news. Now they got to fit 5 or 6 or 7 of them into one slot, and you say, holy cow, but at this point, we're just so used to it. But none of that will exist. No crying, no pain, because the former things have passed away, and we will be his servants, living out our days, spending our time in eternity, just serving him. We'll get to see his face. That sounds good. That sounds real good. Get to see his face and just spend our days serving him. We have to remind ourselves that this is of the goodness of this place, that when we have these doubts, we say, oh, I don't know if I want to go there. We read this and we understand, hey, this is going to be better than anything we have here on earth. This stuff's just temporary. This stuff, in relation, meaningless. That's where it's at. So that's exciting. It's exciting that that is waiting for us. But there's always a catch. Yeah, always something. I can't just say, oh, this is coming. This is waiting for us. All right, go home. Have a good day. There's got to be a but. There's got to be something to get us thinking, something that we have to apply to our lives. We got to have a little bit of a challenge, a little bit of homework for us. God gives us a few warnings. because all of this is ours, as we've talked about. Jesus has went and prepared a way. He's getting it ready. It's all ours. However, there are some instructions that we were given in order to get there. So we receive some instructions in Matthew 6:19 through 21. It says, "Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moths and vermin destroy, and where thieves break in to steal. But store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where moths and vermin do not destroy, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." Well, it's good to know there won't be moths and vermin in heaven. That is ideal. Or thieves. Pesky thieves. We're warned about the dangers of getting too attached to this world. It talks about where your treasure is. That's what we value. What we find as worthy of our time and our energy and our efforts and the space in our mind of thinking these things over and over again. That's where our treasure is. So we're warned against the dangers because these things will pass away. When we focus our efforts on earthly treasures, our focus is on the wrong place. Instead, we are to store up for ourselves treasures in heaven, not holding on to these things, not giving them that much power over us. In Colossians 3:1-4, it says, "Set your minds on things above, not on earthly things. Since then you have been raised with Christ. Set your hearts on things above, where Christ is, seated at the right hand of God. For you died, and your life is now hidden with Christ in God. When Christ, who is your life, appears, then you also will appear with him in glory." And this is an important thing to remember right here. And this is where it kind of all ties in, and to keep in mind. This is 2 Peter 3:10-13. It says this. It's a little bit of a long one, so bear with me. "But the day of the Lord will come like a thief. The heavens will disappear with a roar. The elements will be destroyed by fire, and the earth and everything done in it will be laid bare. Since everything will be destroyed in this way, what kind of people ought you be? You ought to live holy and godly lives as you look forward to the day of God and speed its coming. That day will bring about the destruction of the heavens by fire, and the elements will melt in the heat. But in keeping with his promise, we are looking forward to a new heaven and new earth where righteousness dwells." So here we read that everything's going to change, and at how fast, at what speed. "The Lord will come like a thief." No good thief shows up when we know he's coming. Those ones are in jail. They weren't good at being thieves. The good thieves, who are good at what they do, show up when you don't expect it. They show up and you might not even realize they were there. That's how good they are. So the Lord will come like a thief when that time comes. When this day comes, when all of this will change. And that is basically the end of that chapter. So quick. So he says that everything will change and the heavens will disappear and all that we know will be destroyed by fire. And he warns us to live holy and godly lives because the day of the Lord comes like a thief, no warning. And much like my opening story, this is where all ties in. Sometimes we get a little spiritually lazy. Okay? So when I was talking about the whole, I'll do it tomorrow, and then all of a sudden, 3 months later, it catches up with me, and I'm given a little bit of a wake-up call where this guy says, you need to start wearing large shirts. I say, where did that come from? But the benefit of that is I can now do something about it. My story isn't ended right there. But right here, what it's talking about, this is where it's a little more consequence. See, the Lord warns us and says we need to live these godly, holy lives, and we need to not focus on what we have here, but on what is in heaven. Sometimes we can get so wrapped up and so focused on these things. And it's so easy to. We live in a world and a time where just consuming things and getting things and doing things is just like, it is top on the to-do list. That is the main priority. One thing that this COVID thing has taught me is that where my priorities did lie and where they need to lie. I gave this example in the last service. I'm a big fan of Marvel and the Marvel movies, all the superhero movies. All right. I was really big, and if you're familiar with it, you'll know that the last 10 years. They've been putting out movies and they've been spreading those out to tell a story, and there's so many people who are just so excited about it, and And when like the big movie happened, which was 2 years ago, I got to go to the theater with a bunch of buddies, and we were in the theater, and like everyone was going crazy, and like all the characters that they had read on the pages of these comic books growing up were suddenly on screen. It was really awesome to be a part of, because like it's so good to be a part of something. But I realized that all of a sudden, for the first time in 10 years, all this buildup and all this stuff where what I was doing was focusing on, I can't wait till March when that movie comes out. I can't wait till June when this TV show comes out. I can't wait till this. Is all of a sudden that was gone, and I had nothing that I was looking forward to, nothing that I was prioritizing, and I realized that all my priorities were in these media things. For the first time in 10 years, there was a year where it was just like, oh, you're not getting any movies because of COVID, and I was like, oh, I was really weighing in on those. Like, I was really depending on those to give me some entertainment. I was really waiting for that next one to come out, almost to get that itch, to scratch that itch. And then all of a sudden I'm left with this, and I say, oh, I put a lot of priority on that. It made me realize that that was one of many places where I might be storing up some treasures on earth instead of in heaven, because those don't matter at the end of the day. They're nice for now. It's fun to go and watch a movie now, but at the end of the day, what's it going to matter? Can't take those with us. Can't take those memories with us. It's not going to matter at all. So I had a little bit of a turnaround right there. I feel like we all get a little bit of a turnaround at different points of our lives. It's just part of growing spiritually. In after our last service, there was a lady who came to me and said, like when you were talking about that, it reminded me of an analogy that I had heard a little while ago, and it was where the kingdom of God is like a castle. Like we were talking about this city. It's like a walled city where we're all meant to go to. We're all meant. Doors are open. It's wide open, and all we have to do is walk in. But what happens is we start getting a little further. We say, I'm going to start valuing this a little bit. And here's the gates. Doors wide open, right? Here's the gates. I can go in whenever I want. Here's the gates, and I say, a little bit of treasure over here. Let's go wander over here a little bit. I'm still pretty close, right? Then all of a sudden there's something else. I start valuing, I put sports or something way too high on my priority list. Sports even, nothing safe. Cooking, I don't know, whatever. Just all these things that are of this world that can just take our attention and our love and our focus. That was pickleball, or I don't know, new hobby I picked up. Ever heard of pickleball? Look it up, Google it later. Let's see, crocheting or knitting, I don't know, something. So anyway, I go on and I say, I'm going to be ready, like I got lots of time, because what's going to happen is all of a sudden I'm going to be like, oh, look at the calendar. I got 5 years before those doors close, and I start walking. I say, all right, we're good. Priorities. All the way back here, but no, that's not what happens. Sorry, no, the camera. Gonna be doing some walking. I stay over here. 5 years go by. 10 years go by. All of a sudden, now I'm miles away from the gates. All of a sudden, without warning, those doors start closing, and I'm too far to get back to it in time. It's an interesting way to think about it, but it really struck me, because all of a sudden you think you have this time. Sometimes we think that we can just indulge ourselves in the world a little bit, that we can indulge ourselves with these things that we find good now, we enjoy now, and then at the last possible second we can turn and be like, just kidding, or all right, we're good. But it'll be too late if that happens. It'll be too late. I'm going to invite our worship team to come on back up, because we have one last song we want to play. But I want this to be a wake-up call, because to miss out on what we are promised, what we are given, what He's prepared for us, would be awful. It's too good to lose. It's too good to miss out on. Let this be a wake-up call for us today. Not to, start dieting and exercising or whatever, like I was saying earlier. That wasn't the point. but to live a holy and godly life, not getting comfortable and too deep into the hole of this world, not getting too comfortable and putting off coming back to what's right, coming back to living a holy and godly life. Let this be a wake-up call to get a bit uncomfortable. Let us begin to expect heaven, because we know it's on the horizon. We know we're going there, we know we're getting that, it's prepared away, but let's live in expectation. Let's get excited that we're going there and realize that what it has to offer is way better than what we think is good now. Let this be a time and a realignment of our focus. A time where we look at ourselves, we examine, we say, what's important? What do I value right now? Is my values where it needs to be? If those doors were to start closing today, how far am I? Am I making it to those doors? Because that's no good if you have to run back and those doors close before you get there. God calls us to live a holy and godly life that keeps us right in that doorway, keeps us right there. So all we have to do when the time comes, a little step to the right and we're in. So I pray that as we have the team lead us in this last song, I hope that you'll receive these words. You know, a lot of the times when we sing the words and we sing these songs, it can become such a focus to just read words off the screen. But I pray that you'll just allow these words to flow in you. When I saw that this was on the list, I figured that this ties in pretty good. I can only imagine just talking about, like I said, we have no solid picture of what it is, but I can only imagine what it'll be like, how great it'll be. And I don't want to miss out on that.
I could relate with Colt and remember when I was younger, a teenager, and thinking like, yeah, heaven sounds really great, but there's stuff I'd like to do, Lord, so just wait a little while longer. And also, like thousands and thousands of years, eternity, that's a long time. Like, I don't know if I can sing hymns that long. And then there was a musician I like, and he was, at the end of one of his songs one time, he was saying, the angels have been worshiping the Lord for eternity, and they get down, and they worship him, they get back up, and they're like, oh my goodness, the Lamb's more beautiful than he was the last time I saw him. And they fall down before him, and they get back up, and they fall down. And we can't come to the end of Jesus, like Jesus is heaven, We won't be there for, thousands and thousands of years. Oh, it's Jesus again. Hey, Jesus. Every time we see him, it'll be breathtaking. We can't come to the end of his beauty, his glory. There's just no end to his beauty. And I can't wait. I can only imagine.
So Lord, as we close this service today, we wait, we stand in anticipation for one day when we get to be there with you, God. And Lord, that I pray that this day will serve as a turnaround, a wake-up call for some. That, Lord, they would look how they are doing, where their focus is. And Lord, I pray that now is the time. Now is the time to make the change. Because Lord, we don't know when it's going to be. We don't know when one day you'll come back to say, well done. So Lord, I pray that as we leave this place today, that it would not end here, that the focus would not be shifted today and slowly go back to as it was. Lord, I pray that we would stay in check, that we would stay constantly evaluating ourselves, constantly looking and saying, am I focusing on what needs to be? Am I focusing on where I need to be? is my treasure on earth or is it in heaven? Lord, we pray this just anticipating great things, a wonderful place, a paradise that you promised for us, Lord. Lord, I thank you for this time of gathering, and Lord, as we go home, Lord, I pray for safety, and Lord, that you bring us back next week to hear more about you, Lord. In your name, amen.